Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to completely unpack the incredibly fascinating story of Dr. Israr Ahmed. He's one of Pakistan's most influential modern Islamic scholars, and we're going to do this in just about 3 minutes. We'll look at the man, his mission, and of course, his lasting legacy.
Okay, let's dive into this. Think about it for a second. Would you actually walk away from a highly lucrative, thriving medical career to pursue a singular, somewhat debated vision for society? Because leaving all that worldly success behind for a deeply personal calling is exactly what defines our subject today.
Act 1, the setup. Born back in 1932 in British India, he grew up in a really religious household and witnessed the creation of Pakistan, migrating there in 1947. By 1954, he actually graduated with a medical degree and briefly practiced as a doctor. But driven by this intense spiritual passion, he went back to school and earned a master's in Islamic studies in 1965. So for a while there, he was literally balancing empirical medicine right alongside deep spiritual scholarship.
Act 2, the pivot. Now, what's really interesting here is the major philosophical shift he went through in the late 50s. See, he initially joined Tanzeem-e-Islami, but a pretty fundamental disagreement emerged when the organization started shifting heavily toward electoral politics. Dr. Israr just didn't believe that true Islamic revival could start at the ballot box. He argued that it had to begin with educating individuals and personal moral transformation, which actually led him to leave the group entirely. And that brings us to a massive, defining moment in 1971. He completely closes the doors on his successful medical practice for good. He devotes his entire life, his whole focus, to teaching the Quran and pursuing his specific vision of Islamic revival. The doctor fully, 100% transforms into the scholar. Act 3, the explosion of influence. Once he made that decision, things just took off. He rapidly established several organizations to spread his message. He founded the Markazi Anjuman Khudam al-Quran in 1972, Tanzeem-e-Islami just 3 years later, and eventually Tehreek-e-Khilafat Pakistan in 1991. And all of these groups were strictly dedicated to Quran education and his unique framework for reform. So the crucial point is his core philosophy. He was constantly urging Muslims to understand the Quran directly, basically strengthening their faith through actual knowledge. He heavily prioritized personal moral reform and unity among Muslims. He didn't want followers to just blindly recite the text. He wanted them to deeply study it and actually apply its meanings to their daily lives. And he didn't just keep this in academic circles. He became an absolute household name by taking this message to Pakistan television. Hit programs like Al-Huda and Al-Kitab brought his lectures to literally millions of ordinary viewers. His delivery was always very calm, very logical, and strictly reference-based, which made these super complex theological topics remarkably accessible to the everyday person. And this brilliantly illustrates just how massive his output really was. We're talking about 60 books authored in Urdu, covering Islam, the Quran, and society. Among his most renowned works is the Bayan al-Quran, which is this comprehensive commentary that's still heavily studied today, right alongside his vast audio and video library. Act 4, a complex, lasting legacy. Looking at his final milestones, in 1981, the government actually awarded him the Satara EMTs for his vast services in religious education. He eventually stepped down from leadership in 2002 due to his health, and he passed away in Lahore in 2010 at the age of 77. An event that was widely mourned by his students all across the globe. So how will history ultimately weigh the dual legacy of this doctor turned scholar? It's a massive question. While he undeniably inspired entire generations to study the Quran deeply, his political views and theology do remain the subject of intense, active debate today. He is, without a doubt, a figure of monumental influence. So what matters most here? The structural reforms he championed, or the personal pursuit of knowledge that he sparked in so many? Let that thought linger for a bit. Thanks so much for joining This Explainer.